Good morning. It is 9:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Hey, how you doing? I'm good. Thank you for asking. We got a big show today. Very excited. Sarah McAbee, wife of J6 political prisoner Ronald McAbee, is going to be joining the show like she always does every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Looking forward to speaking with her. Andy Ogles is back on the show. Andy Ogles wants to talk about his articles of impeachment for Kamala Harris. So that's going to be a good conversation. That's going to happen at 11 o'clock. We start today, though, with what I can only see this as election interference. This is the only thing I can see this as. Have you heard what the Secret Service is encouraging Trump to stop doing? Have you heard this?
No, lay it on me.
The Secret Service, they want Trump to stop doing outdoor rallies.
Are they trying to limit us to the amount of people that are allowed to show up, like
Nailed
the Democrats?
Nailed it. Okay, so yes, that's exactly where my mind went too.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to get a third of the amount of people inside an arena, even a big one, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
A third of the amount of people. It's going to be far more expensive.
Oh, absolutely.
A field in Pennsylvania is not as expensive to rent as Bridgestone Arena.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a nightmare trying to get that rented out.
So they're going to be making him waste funds. They're going to be making him shrink his audience. Is that election interference? This is I think this was Fox News discussing this.
And just breaking moments ago, Brett, I want to tell you that the Secret Service is apparently now telling or asking the Trump campaign to stop doing their rallies outdoors. This is reporting from the Washington Post, just breaking in the last couple of minutes here. I can tell you that I asked Don Jr. about that at the RNC last week, if he was going to encourage his father to stop holding rallies outdoors. He said that his father would not like that at all. He loves those outdoor rallies. So we're still trying to work this story right now, but that's coming from the Washington Post. The Secret Service is now encouraging the Trump campaign to stop doing those outdoor rallies.
It's for safety, they'll tell us. It's for safety. I don't buy that for a second. I just don't. And we still haven't gotten any answers about the assassination attempt, despite Kimberly Cheadle testifying. We had Pennsylvania local law enforcement testifying yesterday. Right now, FBI Director Christopher Wray, he's testifying at the Capitol, and we'll have relevant audio from that as it becomes available. But this is election interference. It's just election interference. You can't tell me it's anything but that. You want to shrink Trump's crowds. You want to make him spend more cash, and I think it's deplorable at best. Mind you, Kamala Harris, who everybody's been gushing over, they're in the honeymoon phase. It's the Harris honeymoon, and everybody's just so ginned up with excitement and jolly about Kamala Harris. She drew the largest crowd yesterday for the Democrats this campaign cycle. The largest crowd. Do you know how many people they had? It was 3,000 people. It was 3,000 people. That's it. Yeah, it's not a lot. Not a lot. It's about 97,000 less than the largest crowd that Donald Trump has drawn this political cycle, if you're keeping score at home. Trump had a rally in New Jersey a few weeks back, 100,000. The largest rally for the Democrats this campaign cycle, Kamala Harris, 3K. And they were bragging about it on Twitter. We had to move the venue. There were so many people that were coming to see Kamala. Yeah. This is what we get. Brian in Spring Hill wants to talk about the Secret Service. What's up, Brian? Brian? Oh. Hey, what's up, man? You there?
It's a little different. I just want to wonder what's going on with people today whose brain is disconnected from their ears and their eyes. And then given an excuse like that he needs to go indoors because we're incompetent. That's actually what they're saying.
Yes, nailed
it.
They
need an interpreter. And I'll be glad to be the spokesperson for – I've got a buddy that works for the Secret Service, and he is a proud guy and a good guy. And I hate what he's going through right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know somebody that works for Secret Service as well, and they're good people. I mean, anybody that's willing to run into the line of fire to protect somebody,
absolutely,
it's a different type of person.
Absolutely, and the sad thing is they left my buddy. He didn't leave them, and he's still there, but he's enduring a lot of crap.
I can imagine. I can imagine, Brian. Hey, man, appreciate the call. Let's go to Eric in White House. You're up next on Super Talk. What's up, Eric? What do you think about?
Good morning, Chris.
What do you think about Secret Service? What do you think about Secret Service saying no more outdoor rallies?
Well, that to me, that's by design, obviously, but also because one, like the previous caller, they're incompetent, or they are choosing to withhold the capabilities of their Secret Service. Therein lies my question. Is there any law against a former president that would stop him from hiring his own? Because I guarantee you he's got enough people to look out for him that they put up a better defense force around the perimeters within whatnot for Trump than anything that the Secret Service now would do. Is that something he would be allowed to do, is bring in his own?
Yeah, I'm sure that they would allow that on some level. I mean, the man just survived an assassination attempt. I don't think anybody would be telling him no if he wants to bring in more security on his own dime.
Could he bring in just his own and just say, I don't want the Secret Service, because of the fact that they're being held by like puppets by strings right now? That's
an interesting question, and I'll make sure I ask it to Andy Ogles this afternoon when he's on the show at 11.
Thanks. Have a blessed day, man.
Hey, man, you too. God bless. Thanks. That's Eric in White House. You know, Trump actually had an interview with Sebastian Gorka. I think this was his first interview since the Biden-Kamala swap that the Democrat Party did. So he's sitting down with Sebastian Gorka, and obviously Kamala Harris comes up, and he's asked about debating Kamala Harris and if he's looking forward to that or not.
So are you looking forward to debating Kamala Harris?
Sure. I mean, I would like to debate her. I like to debate, but I like to debate for the country, not for myself. And generally speaking, I think it's a great way of exposing people. It's a great way of finding whether or not, number one, whether or not they're capable, and also their ideas. Look at her ideas. It was up to her. She's going to go right back. If she won, she'd go right back to open borders and destroy the rest of the country.
Absolutely.
Our country is being destroyed. You know it. I know it. I'm not sure they know it. They have some kind of a game. One little piece of their game is trying to register these people to vote. But they do it other ways also, so it's not just that. But it's hard to believe that anybody would want to see open borders where people come in totally unvetted or unchecked.
No, so Trump is open to debates, right? He wants a couple. He wants a few with Kamala. I will point out we need to get them done soon. Like soon. Early voting opens in North Carolina in 44 days. We have a very, very tiny window to set the record straight on Kamala Harris. And make no mistake about it, Vivek Ramaswamy said this, and he's absolutely right. We're not up against the candidate. We're up against the Democrat machine, right? That's what we're up against. We're up against all of the Mockingbird media. We're up against all of these establishment losers, and that's what we have to deal with. And they're doing their best to pitch Kamala as the best person for the job. I mean, listen to Elizabeth Warren. This is Elizabeth Warren last night on CNN. My wife walked in and I had been prepping for like an hour doing show prep. And my wife walked in and she saw Elizabeth Warren on the TV, and she hadn't been in there for a while. She said, "Why is this woman still talking?" Just in general, just wondering. I said, I don't know. And what she was saying made even less sense. This is Elizabeth Warren on Kamala Harris.
But we have to remember, Vice President Harris is one of the most qualified people to run in decades.
One of the most qualified people to run in decades. Listen, this is how the media is going to try and frame her. This is how the Democrats are going to try and frame her. But if she's one of the most qualified people to run in decades, why didn't she make it out of the first round of the primaries in 2020? Why was she the first person to drop out of that race? She's the most qualified in decades. In decades. Why did Joe get the nomination in 2020 if Kamala's the most qualified? Well, that'll go into their other storyline narrative. You're either a bigot or a sexist if you don't want to vote for Kamala Harris for president. That's the storyline. That's the narrative that they're pushing. Trump just absolutely shreds that with Kamala Harris, and he brings up the fact that even when she first started, she destroyed San Francisco.
Look, she destroyed the city of San Francisco. She was the worst. She was the worst at everything. She was the worst vice president, and he was the worst president. By the way, he was the worst president we've ever had. and her ratings are lower than his ratings. So I don't know how she can do well, but maybe she can. It's a crazy world out there.
Yeah, it is. It is a crazy world. Maybe she can. Trump does an excellent job in this interview, and he does it digging at Kamala, and he does it on a macro level, and he does it on a micro level. He says Kamala's going to ruin the country, and he focuses on two levels. How she affected the country on a micro level, and he uses San Francisco as an example for that.
She's terrible. You look at what happened to San Francisco, and a lot of people blame her. She was a prosecutor out there, and she was terrible, and she did a terrible job. San Francisco is a different place, not even livable in many ways. I hate to say that, but it's not even livable in many ways. They got to get that together, or they're going to lose that city. And who would have thought 15 years ago you would have been saying something like that?
So he goes after Kamala right there on the micro level. She ruined San Francisco, and then he takes a dig at her on the macro level, on a much larger level of how she's ruined the country, and it's the southern border.
And as you know, she was the border czar. And essentially, she never went to the border. She went once, but she went into a location where you would love to have dinner, very soft. There was a location where nothing was happening, and they knew that. So she essentially never went to the border. The border was the worst border anywhere in the world, probably in the history of the world, the most border. And I think you're going to have, by the time, hopefully, we get them out, you're going to have 20 million people coming in, many from prisons, many from jails and prisons. If you think of it, there is a slight difference. And also many from mental institutions and even insane asylums are emptying out into our country. And also many, many terrorists are pouring into our country. And she's the worst border person in history. And yes, guys like Tom Homan or Brandon Judd, they will tell you there's never been anything like it.
And that's the macro level, the southern border. Trump's messaging is subtle, but it's really, really good here. On the micro level, she's ruined San Francisco. On the macro level, she's ruined the southern border. You can attack Kamala Harris in many, many different ways, and Trump is a master at that. Talking about her failures at the southern border and her failures in San Francisco, and she can't run away from these things. She can't. This is proven.
She was the border czar. She knew nothing about the border. The border is the most devastating thing to happen to this country in so long. And I'd put up there also the way we withdrew in Afghanistan. I mean, there's so many things. Nothing good happened during this administration. Nothing.
No, and Kamala Harris is right there in the middle of all of it. And on the flip side, we also have all the audio of Kamala Harris talking about these things. And when it comes to the southern border, we have the clips. We can rewind the tape on Kamala Harris being open to the idea of getting rid of ICE.
A lot of the signs at the rally you just held were people standing there saying, abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position that you agree with?
Listen, I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing. And we need to probably think about starting from scratch because there's a lot that is wrong with the way that it's conducting itself, and we need to deal with that.
Yeah, so there's a lot wrong. There's a lot wrong. That's Kamala Harris. That's unbelievable. There's so much that you can nail Kamala Harris with. And Trump does a masterful job in this interview with Sebastian Gorka. He also was asked about the resignation of Kim Cheadle, which happened yesterday, which was big news. And this is his first public comments on that resignation.
Well, I just heard that she is out, and I don't think had much of a choice. That was a pretty bad day by any circumstance. Forget about me for a second. We lost a great patriot, Corey, and two wonderful gentlemen were badly hurt. This was bad, and there are some other less serious injuries, too. This was a bad day for this country, and certainly they should have had people on that rooftop, and they should have told me that there was a problem. I guess maybe they didn't know or something. They haven't gotten to the bottom of that yet. It should have happened, I would say, within an hour, not 9 days, 10 days.
Right.
So she was. Seems to be inevitable that she left. And I don't know if she was fired or she left. Probably she left because Biden doesn't ever fire anybody. He didn't fire anybody for Afghanistan. He doesn't fire anybody for anything. So, which is one of his problems.
Yeah, he's got a few. The media is still going to cover for the left, as they always do. Did you hear what Joy Reid said? Joy Reid went on another unhinged rant in her living room. She's been doing this a lot. Somebody should check on her. But she went on one, and she says, you're going to look pretty weird if you're a person of color or a woman and you're not voting for Kamala Harris. Of course, she didn't say it as eloquently as that. She was a lot more unhinged. I'll play that for you after the break. It's 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. We had some rain yesterday, man. And that rain creates an opportunity for you. If you're getting water inside your home or you're not sure, today's the day to check your crawl space and see if you have standing water in that crawl space. Is water getting into your basement? Maybe this is a problem that you saw a few months ago and then, the rain stopped. But now that the rain's back, you're seeing that problem pop up again. It's time to get it fixed. Call my friends at USS. If you're seeing any of the red flags, like standing water in your crawl space, wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, listen, that's your house trying to tell you something. And you want to call somebody that you can trust. Well, the guys at USS are going to come to your home, and they're not focused on a sales quota. They're focused on solutions, and they're going to make a custom solution for you. And then they won't leave until the job is done and you're satisfied. They've been doing it since 1994, and 25,000 satisfied customers are willing to back them up. You're going to be satisfied as well. And when they do leave, the job is done, you're happy. They're also going to leave a warranty that is good for life. And the warranty will stay even if you leave your home. That's how confident they are in the work they do. If you're getting water in your crawl space or your basement, call USS today, 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. Online at USSTN.com.
A lot of hot button issues in our nation's capital this morning. We'll tell you exactly what's going on at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 9:27 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Somebody needs to do a wellness check on Joy Reid over at MSNBC. These unhinged rants that we get via the front-facing camera on social media, it's getting to be a bit much. It's getting to be a bit much. Her latest rant, you're going to look pretty weird if you're a person of color or a woman and you're not voting for Kamala Harris.
Given the just stratospheric entrance of Vice President Kamala Harris into the presidential campaign.
Stratospheric entrance, given that.
And she has now secured enough delegates to become the nominee.
Did she secure them? She didn't get one vote. I'm sorry. I don't mean to keep interrupting her, but she just drives me mad. Like 15 seconds into the clip, I'm like, I don't want to listen to it anymore, but we have to.
Yeah, it's a part of our job, I guess, unfortunately.
This is for science.
For science.
You're going to look real crazy being on the other side of that line, particularly as a person of color.
Oh, interesting.
But really as anyone who claims to have any connection to the culture. You're going to look real weird and real lonely on that side. The door needs to close behind Amber.
If you're connected to the culture in any way, you're going to look real weird. If you're a person of color and you're not voting for Kamala, you look real weird.
That's so dumb.
We know some people connected to the culture. Remember we had Topher on last week.
Yeah.
He's a rapper, Billboard recording artist, Navy veteran. I wonder what he thinks when he hears something like this.
He's probably got a very strong opinion.
He probably does.
My guess.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, okay, all right. Do this. I don't know if we can get him, but text him.
Yeah.
Will you text Topher?
Yeah, I can shoot him a message.
Text Topher right now. I want to see what he thinks about Joy Reid.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
And
to
she
him.
looked crazy over there. But shut the door behind her. You really are going to look crazy being on that side, given the cultural phenomenon of Vice President Kamala Debbie Harris.
The cultural phenomenon. All right. If he texts back, let's see if we can get him on next.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
All right. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There's actually more to that Joy Reid clip. So regardless of if we get Topher on or not, I got more unhinged Joy Reid for you after Ken Weaver's newscast, which happens right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
9:30 on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Tell you about the pop-up showers and thunderstorms some of us will be dealing with today during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in our nation's capital, FBI Chief Christopher Wray is testifying before the House Judiciary Committee about the investigation into the assassination attempt on former President Trump. He just said they found 8 shell casings on top of the roof where the assassin was. Elsewhere, hundreds of Gaza war protesters demonstrating before Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address of a joint session of Congress. And election 2024, President Biden addresses the nation tonight at 7 o'clock Middle Tennessee time to tell America about his decision to drop out of the race and endorse Vice President Harris. You can hear it live on air and online right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. It's 9:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Got to tell you about my friends at the Glock store. I'm pretty hype. I'm going to set up another training session today to get down there and go to the Shoot 270 indoor ranges. Have you experienced those before? If you haven't, then you've never seen anything like this. What they do at the Glock store is not a lane range. They have private shooting rooms with just you and an instructor. I'll tell you what, I've done a lot of training, and I learned more in my one Shoot 270 indoor range session than all of my lane range sessions combined. And they only have it at the Glock store. The Glock store is filled with the best people. And if you have questions about guns, firearms, performance parts, go to the source, go to the Glock store. In fact, in the back of the store at the Glock store, they have essentially a genius bar for guns. You've seen them in the Mac store when you have an issue with your computer. Well, if you have a question about a gun, you go to that back counter at the Glock store, and you got the friendliest people that are the most knowledgeable on firearms helping you figure out what you need to know. So when I want to have my questions answered, I go to the Glock store. When I want to train, I go to the Glock store. I mean, really, why would you go anywhere else? Why would you go anywhere else? Stop by the Glock store. Take it from me. Talk to the people. Check out the shooting rooms. You will not be disappointed. They're online at glockstore.com, minutes from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
given the just stratospheric entrance of Vice President Kamala Harris into the presidential campaign, and she has now secured enough delegates to become the nominee, you're going to look real crazy being on the other side of that line, particularly as a person of color.
Oh, that's so.
But really as anyone who claims to have any connection to the culture. You're going to look real weird and real lonely on that side. The door needs to close behind Amber. And she looked crazy over there. But shut the door behind her. You really are going to look crazy being on that side, given the cultural phenomenon of Vice President Kamala Debbie Harris.
Oh, given the cultural phenomenon of Kamala Harris. That's Joy Reid on an unhinged rant. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You're going to look real weird if you're a person of color and you're not voting for Kamala. You're going to look real weird if you have anything to do with the culture and you're not voting for Kamala. Topher, who is a Billboard recording artist, a rapper, Turning Point USA contributor, you're in the culture, right, Topher?
Absolutely. And I was going to say, you know, if I'm going to look weird being on the opposite side, then sure, call me Weird Al at this point, because there's no way that she's going to bully me into voting for Kamala Harris simply because of my race.
What is with this identity politics, and why are they pushing this so hard? Is it because she doesn't have a record to stand on?
Well, I believe it. Well, we already know she doesn't have a record to stand on, and the record that she did have was very fatal. That's why she was not popular when she ran in 2020, and she couldn't even get enough votes in her own state. So it's more so the fact that they know that all they have against Trump is the misalignment with him with Project 2025, which both the Heritage Foundation and Trump have publicly stated that they have nothing to do with one another. And this is historically true. But also the fact that Kamala Harris is nothing but Biden on steroids. And we don't want any more Biden. You know, she's still red flag laws. She's still universal background checks. She's still with universal health care. She's still trying to push open borders. She still wants to fund Ukraine. She's still war. She's against any natural energy independence that we have in America. Is, you know, and she's still against babies having a right to live.
Yep.
I mean, what do we want, you know? And so they instead of talking about those major issues, there's like, no, black people, black America. She's black. Didn't we run this play back in 2008?
Honestly,
we've already did the black thing, and you know, and the only thing we got out of that was equal marriage rights for gay people.
I do sometimes feel like Michael J. Fox. I'm like, hey, I've seen this one before.
But here we are once again, you know, just throwing another tag as black woman this time, you know, and for a little special sauce, South Asian, and it's a whole different package, right?
Yep. There's more to this Joy Reid clip I want to play for you, and I want to get your reaction, all right? This is Joy Reid continuing on this unhinged rant.
She's about to make history. She's about to become the first woman president. She brings together the African American community, the AAPI community, younger people. She is a whole meme.
She's a whole meme, Topher. She's a whole meme, which is, I've seen the memes. I don't know if that's the route they want to go, my man.
Yeah, she is a whole meme, you know, because, you know, anytime you hear, you know, what can be unburdened by what has been
yeah, over
and over again. And she just talks in circles. She's what we call the proverbial word salad. That's all she is. She's nothing more than a meme. And the fact that they admit this in front of our faces continues to show the lack of, I would say, I don't know if I want to go with integrity or respect. I would say a lack of respect for the black vote.
Yeah,
you know, they make a mockery of our decisions, of our electoral process, and as they piss on our heads and say that it's raining, they want to make sure that those golden showers are just their way of showing love to us.
Joy Reid had more. I want to hear what you think about this.
And I'm going to explain to y'all the fall of the coconut tree is a whole West Indian thing. She brings together all of the aspects of the culture. HBCUs, she's a Howard graduate. The Divine Nine, she's an AKA. She is a woman of color extraordinaire. She would be the first, person from HBCU, regular real world, to be president of the United States, in addition to being the first woman president, in addition to being the first black woman president, in addition to being the first AAPI president. She's bringing it all.
Is she bringing it all, Topher?
No, if that's all, then we in a world of trouble, Chris. I get it that culturally this is, significant to some, but culture is not the epitome of American. It's not the epitome of American values, especially given the state of culture that we have today. This is why I've partnered with Turning Point as a contributor, because we need to engage in culture and get it back to where we used to prioritize things like, individuality, economic empowerment, personal responsibility, limited government, educational choice, protection of life, and religious liberty. Those are the things that, as a black man, I want to hear from a potential presidential candidate, not about their race, not about what sorority they are part of or what their background is. We're voting for a person to perform a duty that's going to put America first, and everything about her and the Democrat Party and the left-wing media is America last.
Yep. And when they point out the culture, what are the ways to fix the culture, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, education, right? Yep. So we got to make sure that we attack the institutions and hold institutions accountable, whether that's higher education or elementary. We have to make sure we hold them accountable with what they're teaching and the topics they choose to instill, the values that they're creating, the value, instead of prioritizing skin color like critical race theory and DEI does. We need to base people on their character, right, and their merits. And two, we need to deal with the entertainment. Entertainment has become a major part of culture, especially as technology advances. People spend more time on their phones being entertained by TikTok than anything else.
Yep.
So since that is a thing, we as conservatives, as those on the right, we need to take advantage of this technology and start being active on these platforms and creating videos and or content that's centered around our principles, around our values, so we can counteract whatever they put into the media.
So talk to me about TikTok for a second, because you're on TikTok. You have over 2 million followers, and everybody's making a big deal that TikTok is exploding with Kamala Harris love. Have you seen that on the platform?
I've seen the explosion of Kamala Harris love on all platforms, not just TikTok. I mean, Threads. It's beyond me. As I say, it's beyond me. But that being said, I've also seen a rise of people publicly denouncing the diminishing idea or the demeaning idea of voting for her simply because of our skin color or our gender. I've seen plenty of videos of that, and I want to encourage people to do the same and continue to put those videos out there and raise their voices, because the world needs to see that we are more than just our gender identity or our ethnicity.
We're talking with Topher, who is a Billboard recording artist, rapper, veteran, which is honestly, I think that's one of your greatest titles, as well as father and husband. And you're big on TikTok. Do you think that the Kamala love is organic, or do you think that it's forced and fabricated?
I'm a quote some Booker T. Washington. I'm going to paraphrase it for you real quick. There's a group of blacks that earn a living by bringing to the public's attention the problems, injustices, and hardships of the black race. And after discovering that people can make a living for their problems, they have developed the practice of publicizing their mistakes, partially for sympathy and partly for financial gain. And some of these folks do not want the blacks to lose their grievances because they lose or fear losing their jobs. And that is what's happening with people like Joy Reid, Whoopi Goldberg and The View, and all of those people. They fear that when we become economically independent from a booming economy that we've seen through Donald Trump, and not become and lose our dependence upon, I call it the policy gospel that they're preaching, then we can rise up in the ranks and become an impactful and powerful part of American culture. And we would no longer need these people speaking for us. We no longer need these talking heads, and that's going to destroy their careers. So people like Joy Reid and everybody else will continue to stoke the embers of racism and discrimination simply for the fact that it benefits them and not us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're talking with Topher, Turning Point USA contributor, Billboard recording artist, father, veteran, husband, all-around great guy. Well, I'm actually going to see you this weekend in Florida. We're doing Believers Summit with Turning Point Faith. Give me a little preview of what you're working on for Believers Summit. I know Donald Trump is going to be there Friday night. Full disclosure, I'm more excited to see you. What are you going to be talking about, man?
Well, typically what I always talk about, which is incorporating our faith with our political stances, but most of all, the engaging or attacking the idea that we shouldn't mix the two. Yeah. I think that's one thing that I truly want to discuss, especially when we do the panel, is how do we vote with our values, and should we vote with our values? I believe it is foolish to think that when we go to the voting booth, we just tell the Holy Spirit to be like, you stay over there, I'll be back. Go cast your vote and then come back and say, bro, you can come along with me. Like, right. I thought God is with you where you're going, and every decision should come through him. So how all of a sudden we have adopted this ideology, which comes from the world and fascists, that we should just leave our Christianity to ourselves at the house, and we should go out and vote on something else, which is interesting given the fact that this whole country was founded on those Judeo-Christian values. But that being said, I look forward to explaining and defending the mandate we have as Christians on this earth to be the salt of the earth, the light of the world. And one of the greatest ways to do that is to make sure that we are voting in alignment with the Word of God.
Amen. Topher, where can we find you on social media, man?
You can find me at Tophertown Music, TOPHERTOWNMUSIC, on any platform, or my website, tophertown.com.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you jumping on the show short notice to give your perspective on Joy Reid and the left. It means a lot, man. Thank you.
Man, anytime, Chris. Take it easy, bro.
Hey, you too. I'll see you this weekend. It's 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Going to let you hear some of the back and forth between Congress and FBI Director Wray on the investigation of the assassination attempt on former President Trump, coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 9:57 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you again to my friend Topher, Billboard recording artist, Turning Point USA contributor, for coming on the show, giving his take on Joy Reid. We are going to podcast that interview. So it'll be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all the things.
Yeah, I'll have it up by at the latest 1 o'clock.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, we got it there for you.
Anthony in Spring Hill wants to talk about the culture as well. What's up, Anthony?
Hey, good show. Want to make a statement and ask you a little question, okay?
Yes, sir.
Joy Reid is a talking head, okay? She's a sock puppet. But she does bring up a point that is kind of unveiled and might have a bit of legitimacy to it. Let me run this past you, okay? Joy Reid is stating that in terms of her culture, the black culture has cultural interests that primarily drive probably how she sees the world and most likely how she's going to vote. She perceives that these things are going to impact her life very directly, and she's just coming out with that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question is, and I don't find that entirely illegitimate. I don't. Now, if that's the case, however, and that's been going on for decades and decades, nobody throws the penalty flag on that, okay? Are there white cultural concerns that are worth protecting and preserving that should allow white people to see through a particular lens that preserves and protects their culture and their interests?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should want to protect their culture and their interests. I think preserving cultures is a good thing. But, you know, if you start going down that road, then you're going to get called all sorts of names and you know, be lambasted by the left.
We started going down that lane excessively in about the 1960s. A lot of the civil rights legislation, and much of it was good. There are parts of it now that have supplanted the Constitution of this country. And there have been a lot of people who have been hurt by this. They've lost jobs. They've lost opportunities. They don't have the right of association. They don't have the right of disassociation in this country. That's going on. That is going on. Look at the people that are being elbowed out because they're not a person of color or a woman or, or gay or whatever.
Yep. You can see it. You can see it every day in the DEI hiring policies of major corporations. A lot of them are turning away from it, though, because of recent backlash, because Americans are looking left and looking right and saying, I've had enough of this. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk. On the way, after Ken Weaver's newscast, one of our favorites, Sarah McAbee, is going to be joining the show. She is the wife of J6 political prisoner Ronald McAbee, and she always has a unique take on what's going on in the news cycle. We'll talk to her after Ken's newscast, which happens right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Tell you about the showers and thunderstorms today during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in our nation's capital, FBI Chief Christopher Wray testifying before the House Judiciary Committee about the investigation into the assassination attempt on former President Trump.
Did Crooks fire 8 shots?
We have recovered 8 cartridges on the roof.
Why was Crooks allowed to get off 8 shots?
Well, that, I think, is something we're still digging into.
Crooks being the shooter, Thomas Crooks, who local police say was on that roof for 3 minutes before opening fire and then being killed by a sniper. Elsewhere in D.C., hundreds of Gaza war protesters demonstrating before Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address of a joint session of Congress this afternoon. Here's Matt Gutman.
Notably absent from today's address is going to be Vice President Harris. She says she has another commitment, but she will meet Netanyahu later this week, as will President Biden. And Netanyahu is set to travel down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with former President Trump at the end of the week.
Harris and Trump will be campaigning today. Harris in Indianapolis, Trump in Charlotte. President Biden addresses the nation tonight, scheduled for 7 o'clock Middle Tennessee time. Here's Selena Wang.
This will be the first time that he explains why he decided to drop out of this race, and he'll focus on what lies ahead and how he wants to finish his presidency. Biden returned to the White House yesterday after recovering from COVID in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware for more than 5 days. Biden's doctor says that he tested negative for COVID and no longer has symptoms.
Hear it live on air and online on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Again, that's scheduled for 7 o'clock Middle Tennessee time. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
.10:05 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined in studio by Sarah McAbee. She's the wife of J6 political prisoner Ronald McAbee. What's up, Sarah? How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Did you get the memo? I just talked to Topher. He's a veteran, a rapper. I want to make sure you got the memo too. If you're a woman or a person of color, you have to vote for Kamala Harris. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that you got to vote for Kamala.
You know, I am so glad that she is running because she is such a role model to young women that want to do something in politics.
Yeah, I mean, she could teach a lot of those young up-and-comers how to get their start, right?
How to get their way to the top, I guess.
I guess so. So since the last time that you were in here, it's been a week, but I feel like we've had a month's worth of news.
Because we have.
What are your current thoughts on the political climate and where we are today? What stories have piqued your interest?
All of them. To be honest with you, we've been waiting for this for a really long time. It has been a very interesting week. I think it's only going to get bumpier to the election. Mm-hmm. It was like after the assassination attempt, it was like open the floodgates.
It's been wild.
It has been a wild ride.
So Biden's out. He's going to have his main address tonight, 7 o'clock Central. We're actually covering that live on Super Talk. What do you think he's going to say?
What is the teleprompter going to tell him to say? Pause, hold.
Repeat the line.
To be honest with you, I'm kind of sad he dropped out of the race. That was good for us.
Yes.
That he was going to be in the race. He made us look good.
Do you think it's going to be tougher with Kamala?
No, but I also don't know if she's going to be the nominee. It could be Newsom, could be Michelle Obama. They could even bring back Hillary Clinton.
Ugh. Which woman do you think is more unlikable, Hillary or Kamala?
They're both evil, but I think Hillary Clinton is just very evil, satanic.
Do you know that they had their largest rally this Democrat campaign cycle with Kamala Harris yesterday in Milwaukee? The largest one to date. They had 3,000 people. So it's 97,000 people less than Donald Trump's largest rally this campaign cycle.
That makes sense why they say he can't have outside rallies anymore.
Yes. Have you heard that story? Secret Service announcing that they're encouraging Trump to not hold outdoor rallies anymore.
And just breaking moments ago, Brett, I want to tell you that the Secret Service is apparently now telling or asking the Trump campaign to stop doing their rallies outdoors. This is reporting from the Washington Post, just breaking in the last couple of minutes here. I can tell you that I asked Don Jr. about that at the RNC last week, if he was going to encourage his father to stop holding rallies outdoors. He said that his father would not like that at all. He loves those outdoor rallies. So we're still trying to work this story right now, but that's coming from the Washington Post. The Secret Service is now encouraging the Trump campaign to stop doing those outdoor rallies.
Is this election interference, him trying to get him not to do outdoor rallies?
Not only that, the criminal prosecutions are election interference on their behalf. They don't want him out on the campaign trail. They don't want him alive.
It's hard to argue with that.
I mean, it's the facts, unfortunately.
It has been insane. And now we're being told that the Democrat Party is rallying behind Kamala Harris. Do you believe that they're rallying behind Kamala Harris?
No. I mean, you saw the headlines that the Obamas don't support her.
It's wild. Schumer, though, yesterday, Chuck Schumer was bragging about how they're unified now.
Since President Biden's announcement, we've seen the Democratic Party swiftly coalesce behind Vice President Kamala Harris.
He's a joke.
He is. Did you hear what he had? He had 2 Jeb Bush please clap moments yesterday.
Process is played out from the grassroots bottom up. We are here today to throw our support behind Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm clapping. You don't have
to. Honestly, hold on. That one wasn't even the worst. He had another please clap moment. He had another one.
And become the next president of the United States of America. Applause. Hakeem.
They can't even get the people in the room with them that they've invited to be excited about Kamala Harris.
It's, we said this last week, but it's a sad time in our nation.
It is a sad time in our nation.
That they don't have anybody good for a nominee.
But they would have. And I have to feel like this is them installing their candidate. Had they had an open primary process and done this the right way, we would be looking at RFK Jr. as the Democrat nominee.
Yeah.
We would.
That would have been a good race.
They would have been a lot tougher.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And we haven't won anything yet. We still have a dogfight in front of us because we see the media wrapping their arms around Harris and trying to hoist her up to the top like she is the savior of the Democrat Party. Did you hear Van Jones gushing over Kamala Harris?
Mm-mm.
Hold on, I got to do this for you. I had to listen to it, so you have to listen to it.
Oh, great.
Van Jones downright gushes, and this is a man who cried 2 days ago on TV because Joe Biden did the most heroic thing in his career, which is quitting. Now he's got his software update and he's gushing over Kamala.
His first campaign rally where she announced she had the best fundraising day in American campaign history. How are you thinking about this remarkable shift among the Democrats in just the past 2 days.
Oh, free at last, free at last.
Free at last, free at last. 2 weeks ago, they were telling us that Joe Biden was like on point and we're making things up and cheap fakes.
So my question is, so he's not going to run for president. How is he even capable of finishing out the next 6 months?
Honestly.
And then we have a woman who can't even put a sentence together, much like Joe Biden, that now she's going to save democracy?
She's going to, yeah. And if you're a woman and you're not voting for her, you're going to look pretty weird.
Well, go ahead and label me.
Kamala Harris is unleashed. She's just brilliant. She's just, the energy that's coming off of her is the energy that's coming off of the American people. Look, I mean, this is 2008 vibes already.
Do you think that this is 2008 vibes? Do you think drawing 3,000 people to a rally and that being your largest of the campaign cycle is 2008 vibes?
No, actually, I think it goes, in my opinion, it goes back to 2016. You know, Hillary's slogan was, "I'm with her."
Yep.
I think our slogan needs to be, "I'm not with her."
She's done in literally 48 hours things that were considered impossible. She got the nomination. She took over cultural. She's a cultural phenomenon now. TikTok loves her. She raised more money than anybody. She signed up 50,000 people. You can do your whole career and not get 50,000 volunteers. She did it in 48 hours.
So they're touting her as, 48 hours, this success. And I made the point yesterday, in the 3 years that she's been vice president, do you know how much of her staff has turned over? 92%.
I believe that.
You run a business. Do you think that you could run Stand in the Gap Foundation if you had a 92% turnover?
No.
Do you think anybody can run a business with 92% turnover?
No.
And
why would anybody want to go work for that company?
And they want her to run our country.
I have no words.
It's unbelievable.
You are witnessing the birth of a cultural phenomenon, and you need a cultural phenomenon to stop a cultural phenomenon. Donald Trump is a cultural phenomenon. So now you've got two superpowers colliding, but this one just came out of nowhere. Listen, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, people were like, Kamala Harris, I don't know, she can't win, I don't like her, blah, blah, blah. All those people are marching in line and getting information. It's unbelievable to watch.
Didn't they tell us one of the weaknesses about Joe Biden was his vice president? Wasn't one of the talks replacing the vice president to make the Joe Biden ticket more appealing?
Yes, but I also have a question. So we know these people are criminals that are running our country right now, but what about the Trump campaign filing FEC complaint against Harris over the use of Biden's war chest?
Yes.
That's illegal.
Tell me about this.
I've just seen it everywhere. I just pulled it up on X again, but it's $91.5 million of the war chest.
Well, and they're framing it too because Trump used some of that against the candidate that ended up not being the candidate.
Right.
So is that what's wrong there? I don't know if you haven't heard this story. So Trump's campaign filed a complaint with the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, Tuesday against Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, in which they're accusing the president and the vice president of violating campaign finance laws by transferring the Biden campaign funds to the Harris campaign funds. And they say Kamala Harris is seeking to perpetrate a $91.5 million heist of Joe Biden's leftover campaign cash, a brazen money grab that would constitute the single largest excessive contribution and biggest violation in the history of the FEC Act of 1971 as amended. That's David Warrington. He's the Trump campaign's general counsel. He wrote that in the complaint per the New York Times. He said that Biden and Harris were flagrantly violating the act by making and receiving an excessive contribution of nearly $100 million and for filing fraudulent forms with the commission purporting to repurpose one candidate's principal campaign committee for the use of another candidate.
So what do we think is going to happen with this? Could you imagine if we did that, the conservatives, the Republican Party did that?
Do you think that they would have let that happen if Trump was assassinated? No. Do you think if Trump had been assassinated and they were going to go with, I don't know who. Let's just say Vivek. So they decide Vivek is the guy. Do you think they would have let them transfer the money from the Trump campaign to Vivek?
Absolutely not. And actually, it'd be much more than $100 million because in May alone, when he was convicted, I believe they raised over $400 million for him.
And they always point to the money. Oh, look at how much Kamala's raised. She's raised more than Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The day Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, we've raised more. It's crazy. Okay, well, Donald Trump didn't spend as much as Hillary. He didn't spend as much as Jeb Bush during the primaries. He didn't spend as much as Nikki Haley and Ron. Does he need to spend all the money to win?
No. He probably could spend $0 and win.
I'm with you.
Honestly.
They're going to cover him anyway.
If we had fair and free elections, he would win in a landslide.
What are you worried about as we head towards November when it comes to free and fair elections?
You know, if we think we're going to walk to the ballot box on November 5th and that they're not going to try to steal the election, shame on us. We haven't fixed anything since 2020. And everybody wants to say it's the machines. It's not the machines, it's the software. It's the software. So we're 3.5 years into this and we haven't fixed anything. I mean, we have a right and a duty as an American to go to the ballot box on November the 5th. So I think that we should. But why do we not think that they're going to pull the shenanigans that they pulled in 2020?
Well, and it's scary to think that in 44 days, North Carolina is going to start early voting. So we have like a very, very limited window to really expose the record on Kamala Harris while the left is coalescing behind her to anoint her the queen of the Democrat Party.
You know, that's what the left does. They are very much in unison. I don't know what happens behind closed doors, but when they step out into the public, that's why they get stuff done. And yet we as conservatives and Republicans say, you know what, if we can't agree on 100% of things, then we can't work together.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And even the messaging since Kamala announced, we knew this was coming. We knew it was most likely going to be Harris. And still, the Republicans, they're disagreeing on the messaging. You're hearing some people say, "Oh, we should attack her this way. We should attack her that way. Let's not attack her prosecutorial record. Let's attack this. Let's attack that." And you know, minor things. But I guess the point is that the messaging currently isn't uniform. But if you look at the Democrats, their messaging is completely uniformed. And you've heard it time and time again. Joe Biden's done more in one term than some presidents in two. Kamala Harris is the most qualified in decades. That's Elizabeth Warren said that. The woman that was the first to drop out of the primaries in 2020 is the most qualified in decades to run.
So you mean that Joe Biden has done more to damage this country?
That's how I took it. That's how I keep doing that edit in my head. Like, yeah, he has actually done more to ruin the country.
Finally, they are speaking truth.
You have to hold him to the fire, right? Yeah. But you can see that our messaging is a little bit disjointed and the left is lockstep. They got the memo. They got the memo. Why aren't we as organized as they are?
Because we can't agree on things. It doesn't matter if we agree on 75% of things. We look at the 25% that we don't agree on. So that's why we can't get anything done. We have had a House majority for almost 2 years now. What have we gotten done?
That's about it. I will say this though. I think they need to be running these new Trump ads in.
You're talking about Harris.
A Freudian slip, I guess. They need to be running these new Trump ads in North Carolina nonstop between now and when early voting starts and in all the markets where early voting is.
Kamala was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Our president is in good shape, in good health, tireless, vibrant, and I have no doubt about the strength of the work that we have done.
But Kamala knew Joe couldn't do the job, so she did it. Look what she got done. A border invasion, runaway inflation, the American dream dead. They created this mess. Kamala owns this failed record. Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
They need to start doing media blitz.
They absolutely do. And I want to know when Kamala and whoever's truly running the country and Biden's family are going to be held for crimes against humanity for doing what they've done to that man, for a dementia patient sitting in the White House. Honestly. And they know it. And they still continue to put him through it. He should be sitting in a nursing home. And like, all jokes aside, like, that man needs help and they're not giving it to him.
No, they're not. In fact, they're having backdoor meetings figuring out who's going to be the first one to stab him in the back. It's unreal. We're hanging out with Sarah McAbee. She's the wife of J6 political prisoner Ronald McAbee. She's one of my favorites. She's going to be here for a little while. It's 10:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, they just cleared a crash on 40 westbound under the Elm Hill Pike overpass, so that's good news, drivers. And we'll tell you what FBI Chief Christopher Wray just told a hearing on the investigation into the Trump assassination attempt. That's coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 10:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined in studio by Sarah McAbee, one of my favorites. She's the wife of J6 political prisoner Ronald McAbee. And we were talking about your fan club off the air. You have a fan club on social media. I didn't know this.
Yeah, but it's not the fan club that you think.
Okay, tell me about your fan club.
They actually really hate me.
Why?
You know, I think because we speak truth. Because everything, they literally wait for me to post. I don't know if they have like notifications or something that it's like, Sarah just posted. And then they swarm. But I like it because even bad publicity is good publicity, right?
Yeah. So what do they attack you about?
You know, they say that I'm living my best life now that my husband is incarcerated. That my life has done 180 degrees, which they don't know what my life looked like before this.
Yeah, it's always wild. So before everything went down with your husband and January 6th, like, what was your life like?
You know, the American dream. We lived a white picket fence lifestyle. I mean, he was a law enforcement officer. I worked in the corporate world, worked my way up the chain, the corporate ladder, per se. I had a cushy job working in the entertainment industry, concerts, Broadway shows, films. It was fun. Life was good.
And then it changed.
Drastically.
So what happened when your husband was arrested and then put in prison for the J6 stuff? For you personally, like on like a personal level, like what did that change look like?
Everything changed in that moment, honestly. I was not home when they apprehended him. I was traveling for work, and I received the phone call from the FBI saying, hey, this is FBI agent David. We just apprehended your husband, and we are walking into your home to raid it. And they asked me a few questions, and it really was just an outer body experience, to be honest with you. Like when they talk about your life flashing before your eyes, it did just that. And then little did I know that it was going to be almost 600 days before I was able to see him again.
That's unbelievable.
So people don't understand like that backside of like having to deal with life, because life goes on. Right. And so there were things that happened in my personal life with my family. My grandmother passed away. We had family pets that had passed away, job changes, anything that like you would want your spouse to be supportive of, they couldn't. And I literally lived in fight or flight mode for 30. I'm just now coming off of that now that he is settled into the facility that he's going to finish serving his time at. But I was in fight or flight mode for 35 months.
And you weren't vocal in the beginning.
No.
What was the point and in your life when you said, I have to be vocal? Like what changed and when?
He was assaulted. So he had been incarcerated for 13 months at the time. He was in the D.C. Gulag for 11 of those 13 months. And on September 5th of 2022, he walked out of his cell that morning without a COVID mask because he had been in there for 11 months. He was about to go take oral medication. And a lieutenant who was banned from that pod was in there because admin staff wasn't in there. So when the boss is away, you do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And she sprayed him with OC spray twice. They handcuffed him, threw him on the ground. And it was in that moment that I realized if I wasn't going to fight on behalf of my husband, nobody was going to. And so I just prayed about it. And I just felt like the Lord said, you need to be a voice for them. And that's when everything changed again.
It's a wild story. Sarah McAbee, she's got a great story. We're going to talk with Sarah more after Ken Weaver's newscast, which happens right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
10:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We'll tell you about this off and on rain and thunderstorms during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now at our nation's capital, FBI Chief Christopher Wray just told a hearing on the investigation into the Trump assassination attempt that they found 8 shell casings on the roof where shooter Thomas Crooks was. They say they also found a drone Crooks flew around the area before the rally in Crooks' car. Elsewhere, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu preparing to speak to a joint meeting of the House and Senate today, while outside, anti-war Anti-Gaza war protesters demonstrating ahead of Netanyahu's speech. And here in Middle Tennessee, Bruce Fonstock of Smyrna tells News 2 he's convinced his home security camera recorded a cougar early Sunday morning.
So I pulled it up, and lo and behold, my mouth fell open. I went, oh my gosh, that's not a kitty cat.
Tennessee wildlife regulators are investigating, but say there's no reason to panic based on what they saw on Fonstock's video. And the Nashville Zoo tells News 2 domesticated cats are more likely to walk along the top of a fence, not a cougar. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. It's 10:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, here to tell you about my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. If you need an AC guy, you got to call Busy Bee. And right now, in the month of July, you can get a buy one, get one free special on Busy Bee Beehive Club memberships. Now, this is fantastic. It's for you and somebody in your neighborhood. You've heard me talk about the Beehive Club membership, and there's so much value in it. It's only $99. You get 3 annual tune-ups, 1 for your heating, 1 for your cooling, 1 for your plumbing, 10% discount on repairs, priority front-of-the-line service, a $100 annual accrued replacement credit with a maximum of $1,000, no overtime or holiday fees, and exclusive Beehive member promotions. And again, it's only $99, and for the month of July, it's buy one, get one free for you and somebody else in your neighborhood. So you can either be a great neighbor and gift it, or you can be a smart neighbor and find somebody to go in on it with you half. Either way, you're going to get so much value. I'm a Beehive Club member, and when I had an issue with my AC, that front-of-the-line service was clutch. They were at my home in less than an hour, and they fixed what was going on so quickly. It was my guy, Joe Henry. If you ever have Joe Henry come to your house, he's one of the best. He's one of the best, but everybody at Busy Bee's the best. Busy Bee's your Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833. And they're online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
1036 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can listen to us wherever you go with the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app. You can catch the podcast after the fact on Apple and Spotify. I have 4 kids, so even if you don't want to listen to the podcast, please subscribe, rate it 5 stars. Do it for them, not for me. I would appreciate it. Joined in studio by Sarah McAbee. She is the wife of J6 political prisoner Ronald McAbee. And we were talking a moment ago about how you've decided to stop being silent, that moment when your husband was assaulted in a federal prison. And you've kind of learned a lot about federal prisons that you didn't know before.
A lot that I wish I didn't know.
What has been the most shocking things that you've learned with your husband being in federal prison?
I think there's a whole list.
Yeah, that's I'm asking for the list.
Unfortunately, I think January 6 defendants have been given this platform to expose the injustices that have been going on, because particularly he was held in the D.C. gulag, what they call it, for 27 months of his 35 months so far. He's actually been in 12 different facilities.
Which is insane.
Yeah, in 35 months, 12 different facilities, and which is another thing that you learn along the way, that they kidnap. Kidnap you. Your attorneys don't know where you are. Your families don't know where you are. I understand the safety reasons behind why they do that, except for, we're in the 21st century now. And I don't understand why our prison system's stuck in the 1950s. Unfortunately, the poor, the indigent, black and brown families, they've been going through this for a very long period of time. And unfortunately, Republicans, conservatives, they don't want to touch this. They don't want to touch justice reform. They don't want to touch prison reform because we're in the mindset, these individuals did the crime, they do the time. But they're overcharged and they're overpunished. And the process is the punishment because we treat these people like animals.
How do we fix it?
I don't know if we can fix it. There's so many facets of it that's broken, from the commissary system to the way that they're treated, the way they're held in the confinement that they're held in, the visitation system, the communication system. Honestly, from the time that somebody is indicted in a grand jury, now, according to our Constitution, you are supposed to be able to be there, or you are supposed to be able to have a representative there. But a lot of people don't know that grand juries happen behind closed doors. From that moment to the time that they are released back into somewhat freedom, it's broken. It's broken.
It's wild to hear you say that, and it's eye-opening. And Peter Navarro was talking about this yesterday, was he not? And yes. You said that piqued your interest because he just went to a federal prison himself for defying a subpoena. And he's echoing a lot of what you're saying now.
Yes. No, for sure. He got to, unfortunately, experience firsthand. He was 4 months in a federal prison in Miami. And some of the stuff, I just posted on X, Sarah McAbee _US, if you want to go see it. It's about an hour long. Put it on 2-speed, listen to it. It is very informative because what he uncovers is that the Federal Bureau of Prisons is running a $5 billion scheme.
So what is the scheme?
So in 2018, President Trump signed the First Step Act. I actually know the attorney very well that wrote the First Step Act.
Okay.
His name's Sean Hopwood. He has a very interesting story. He actually was a federal inmate. So he knows the system on both sides.
Yep.
He was an inmate and now he's an attorney.
That's wild.
A very interesting story. But President Trump signed into the law in 2018, and it's a criminal justice reform bill designed to promote rehabilitation, lower recidivism, and reduce excessive sentences in the federal system. It's for first-time nonviolent offenders. However, since the Biden regime took over, they have failed to enforce this bill, defying Congress, and effectively, they are breaking the law.
You're telling me that the Biden administration is not going to enforce something the Trump administration did?
Shocker.
Color me shocked. Have we not seen this movie before?
Big shocker, right?
So is there hope that if Trump gets back in that this could be fixed?
Yeah, I do know towards the end of his presidency, he was working on prison reform, something that many Republican candidates or Republican presidents didn't touch at all. I think it was funny that he was meeting with Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, but they were being advocates for these individuals, specifically the ones that are first-time offenders that get the book thrown at them. that we need policies in place. Now, bad things happen and people need to be punished for the crimes that they commit. But after a certain period of time, they lose all hope, and that's part of this $5 billion scheme. He talks about the 3 different parts of how it comes to be $5 billion. But you have these people that made a very good living prior to committing their crime, whether it was fraud or tax evasion or whatever that was, right? They were making 6+ figures. Well, you take that away from their family, and now their family is living on government assistance.
Yeah, it's insane.
And so it goes back to the taxpayers are paying. We pay $60,000 a year per inmate. That's more than the average income that Americans make in 2024. I think it was right under. I think it was like $58,000. But we are paying $60,000 per inmate. And then this whole First Step Act is to get them back into contributing members of society sooner, and that they're supposed to go to halfway houses, except for the unit managers, the counselors there, they are being told, actually, he talks about it, there is it's from the deep state.
Peter Navarro talks about it.
Yes, that he has this letter that they are saying delay these people of being released because there's no room at halfway houses. So instead of sending them home on ankle monitors or whatever, getting them out of the system where they only cost us then $30,000 a year, they are now defying them up to 2 years. I mean, we're not talking a couple of months of delaying them of being released. We're talking about 2 years of them serving time when they should be out.
That's insane. So then they're delayed, and Kamala Harris is under fire too because she was delaying sentences for that free labor in California. Is there a lot of that happening too?
Yes. I mean, and specifically talking about January 6th, we still have people sitting in jail that haven't accepted a plea deal and haven't gone to trial 4 years later. There is an individual that's being housed in Texas. He was in D.C. for a very long period of time. He's still pre-trial. His trial is not until February of 2025 now.
How does that happen?
There's multiple things that happen. There's delay on both sides because of new counsel. Maybe they haven't gotten the evidence of what they needed. They still don't. They're still withholding evidence from these individuals. So when you go to trial, before you get that evidence, you're playing a game of risk. You're rolling the dice. Because you have nothing to, and I know particularly in my husband's case, we had to find the audio. The government withheld exculpatory evidence from the very beginning, from his first bond hearing. They didn't turn over the videos or the audio. And even when they turned over the videos, there were no audio. We had to hunt for the audio, and the audio changes everything. When you listen to it, he's communicating with the police officers. Even in trial, 26 months of them holding him, the defense is the only person, we're the only ones that played the audio.
Really?
Yes.
And this is not just isolated to you. This is many people deal with this.
Well, we're talking about over almost 1,500 January 6th defendants across America. But it's not just happening to January 6th defendants. It's just, I believe we've been given a platform to expose what is going on.
So you've kind of made it your mission to highlight this stuff. What do we do to fix it? Like, what's the call to action for regular people on the ground who hear this and say, yeah, that's not right?
We need to be talking to our representatives about it. We need to be writing letters. It's hard. You're fighting the beast. You either fight the beast or you feed those fighting the beast. That is the point that we are at right now. We can help people on individual levels alleviate the burden. For January 6th defendants, we can encourage them to write them and let them know that their sacrifices aren't going to go in vain. But we need to let our representatives know that we are not going to turn a blind eye to this. We are not going to sweep this under the rug. And we need to write petitions. Legislation is what we need to do and what needs to be written. So we have the House, right? And that's the legislative branch. Why aren't we writing bills and trying to pass bills to ensure that this never happens again or that we right this wrong?
Yeah, I think we should. And I also want to take a moment to commend what you've done on your own, on your personal level with the Stand in the Gap Foundation. You guys are raising money for visitations for J6 family members because it's expensive to fly a family out to a federal prison for a 1-hour visit. And you've also been raising money for appellate lawyers for J6 defendants. How's that going? And, what does that process look like?
It's going well. We're actually holding an event in Bedminster at Trump's National Golf Club August the 10th, a fundraiser to raise money for these individuals, because now that the 1512 charge has been overturned, which is an obstruction of an official proceeding, it's being sent back to the courts, the district courts, for them to re-sentence these individuals. So the other day, I just got off the phone with the wife of a defendant who has this charge, that now they are having to pay their attorney to go back and fight for re-sentencing. The attorney wants $12,000. So they paid for a defense attorney, they paid for an appellant attorney, and now that this charge is overturned, now they have to go back and pay again for a third time. And that's why we have to raise money on behalf of these defendants. They've been financially broken for the last 3.5 years.
By design.
By design. They want them to sit in jail and not be able to pay for an attorney to be resentenced.
Well, and that's why I think what you're doing with Stand in the Gap Foundation is so important. How much does your average appellate lawyer cost?
I've seen everything from $120,000.
Oh my gosh.
$90,000. $20,000. It just depends. The good attorneys, they need to be paid for what they're doing. They're good attorneys for a reason.
Yeah.
And
but this isn't really something that you can exactly put on like a layaway payment plan.
No, you have to pay it up front.
So a lot of these guys are sitting there and they don't have the funds to do it.
Right.
And that's where you come in.
Yeah, because there's a 99.6 conviction rate among January 6 defendants in Washington, D.C., because they will not grant a change of venue. Not one defendant has been granted a change of venue. And so, if you are going in against a rigged jury, that you're judged by a day on the calendar versus your actions that day, the prosecution's withheld evidence, and the judges, the judges. And so why are we paying all this money for defense attorneys when it doesn't matter how good of a defense attorney you have, that you are going to be found guilty on all your crimes? And then after sentencing, you go to the appeals court, you cannot financially afford it. And that's why we don't fund defense attorneys, because I was told by a very well-known attorney in D.C., they said, Sarah, you've been paying for a private attorney for 18 months. Your husband's still sitting in jail. He's going to go to trial and be found guilty on all of his charges in front of a D.C. jury. Why don't you save your money for sentencing and appeals? And that's when the light bulb went off. And I was like, I've been in this for 18 months and you're the only person that's been honest with me about this. Thank you.
Wild. So now you're raising money for J6ers that can't do it themselves.
Yes.
Stand in the Gap Foundation, if you want to donate to some of these causes. How much does it cost to fly a family out to see a J6 political prisoner?
Anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000. We the entire family can go and visit.
And you raising that money. How much money have you raised for this cause so far?
Well, we've sent over 50 families.
Wow.
For visitation, and we've paid for 5 appellant attorneys in full.
That's amazing.
It is, but we need the help, because there's a lot of people that are still currently suffering.
Well, we have a large audience and they step up when they're asked. So standinthegap.foundation is the website. $5 makes a difference. $10 makes a difference. If you can fund a whole trip, Sarah will happily accept that as well. Standinthegap.foundation. Anything else that you want to say as it comes to raising this money and how important it is?
We can't let these people's sacrifices go in vain. We want to talk about what these families have had to sacrifice at the hands of the federal government, that these people were welcomed into the Capitol. The doors were open. The police were welcoming them in. Did bad things happen on January 6th? Yes.
Yep.
But the process is the punishment, and it's leaked over into these families. And so, they haven't been able to see their loved ones. They've had to get multiple jobs. These families are split apart. They've sold their assets. So what can we sacrifice as Americans when these individuals have sacrificed everything? Can we sacrifice a Starbucks cup of coffee? Can we sacrifice a shopping trip? What can we sacrifice to let them know that we stand behind them and we're going to help bear their cross until they get home?
I love your story and I love what you're doing. Where can people find you on social media, Sarah?
Social media, I'm Sarah McAbee _US. I have a personal website where you can learn more about our story and what we are doing, our initiatives. It's sarahmcabee.us.
Perfect. And then standinthegap.foundation is the website where you're accepting those donations for J6 political prisoners. I always appreciate you coming in.
No, I have so much fun. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Sarah McAbee, she's the wife of Ronald McAbee, J6 political prisoner. She'll be back. You'll be back next Wednesday.
No, I'll be gone next Wednesday.
All right. Well, the following Wednesday, we'll have you back on. Always look forward to Sarah. She's one of the best. Find her on Twitter, Sarah McAbee _US.
Yes.
Perfect. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hear what the FBI chief just told Congress about the investigation of the Trump assassination attempt, coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 10:57 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. If you missed any of the show, you can find it on the podcast on Apple and Spotify. On the way, Andy Ogles is going to be joining the show. And I have a few questions for Andy. He is going to be pushing for articles of impeachment for Kamala Harris. It's like, oh, okay, well, that piques my interest. Rep. Andy Ogles introduced the articles of impeachment against Vice President Kamala Harris, the Biden administration's border czar, for willfully and systemically refusing to uphold federal immigration laws. A second article in the resolution also contends she breached the public trust. He introduced that resolution to impeach Harris, who everybody is saying is, she's the Democrat nominee. He put that out Tuesday. Politico, the Washington Examiner reported this. They had screenshots of the document. Ogles has contended that Kamala Harris has committed high crimes and misdemeanors, and it's all related back to the border crisis and mass illegal immigration. Obviously. So she was in charge of the border. They're doing their best to whitewash that history in true Orwellian fashion, 1984. That's what the Democrats do, and they're saying, no. She was never in charge of the border. She was never in charge of the border. Oh, well, that's news to me and news to everyone else, because we were under the impression that she was in charge of the border. Even NBC covered this the other day. A lot of the media coverage on Kamala Harris has been pretty rosy, but some of it's really exposed some truth. And NBC was one of those outlets talking about Kamala and the border.
Now, Harris will likely run on the broader Biden-Harris agenda, with Republicans already seeking to exploit what they see as political liabilities on the economy, inflation, and immigration, after Harris was tapped to lead the White House response to root causes of the border crisis.
We've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
No, you're not discounting it. But the mainstream media has been covering for her, saying, no. She wasn't really the border czar. NBC, with a little truth in their reporting right there, everybody knows that she was tapped to be in charge of the border. 100%. Andy Ogles has introduced articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris. High crimes and misdemeanors. We're going to talk to Andy next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, tracking the potential for more showers and thunderstorms. We'll tell you the details during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in our nation's capital, FBI Chief Christopher Wray just told a congressional hearing the 20-year-old who tried to assassinate former President Trump had a drone flying around the rally venue a couple of hours before those shots rang out.
Not over the stage and that part of the area itself, but I would say about 200 yards, give or take, away.
And then there was this.
Have you developed any evidence to so suggest that there are any accomplices or cooperators or assisters?
Not at this time, but again, the investigation's ongoing.
Elsewhere in D.C. this morning, Gaza war protesters demonstrating ahead of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to a joint meeting of Congress. And Selena Wang previews President Biden's Oval Office address to the nation tonight, which we will carry live on all of our platforms, including on air, starting at 7 o'clock Middle Tennessee time.
Biden still has 6 months left of his presidency, and he says he's determined to do everything he can to accomplish his goals both at home and overseas. That includes trying to lower costs for Americans and ending this war in Gaza. The president is still planning to meet with Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House tomorrow.
Now, Netanyahu goes to Mar-a-Lago Friday to meet with former President Trump, and we're told Vice President Harris will sit down with Netanyahu as well at some point. She's on the campaign trail today in Indiana, and as for former President Trump, Rachel Scott.
Former President Donald Trump heads to North Carolina to hold his first rally, starting to switch gears, going after the vice president on everything from the administration's handling of immigration and the border to also her failed bid for the White House in 2020.
And that rally with Trump will be held indoors. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
.11:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. Joining us now on the Newsmaker Hotline, Congressional Representative Andy Ogles. Hey, Andy, how we doing, man?
Just, busy as I'll get out and just fighting a good fight, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. This has been a crazy couple of weeks for you. Did you expect anything like we've seen in the past few weeks when you got the gig?
Oh, no. I mean, there's no way. I was a county executive who stood up and fought the status quo during COVID. I refused to comply. But I didn't realize that when I would become a congressman, that I would have to do the same thing. And we as a republic, we as conservatives and law-abiding citizens, family-loving individuals, we're under attack right now, and the republic's at stake. And so I'm just, fighting a good fight. We got to get Donald Trump elected, and here we go from here.
And one of the ways that you're fighting the good fight is introducing impeachment articles against the border czar, Kamala Harris. Explain to me your thought process behind the impeachment article.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a process in Congress where you can issue articles of impeachment. And so what we've done and laid out in these articles, and there's two parts to it. One is to do with immigration laws and the disregard thereof. And the second part deals with the 25th Amendment and her complicit involvement in covering up for Joe Biden. But back to really, I think both are egregious, but the one where Americans have paid the biggest price is, you look at the overdose deaths and just the general overdose because of fentanyl. And, the Harris-Biden administration have allowed the invasion of our country. Every small town in America is a border town.
Yep.
On page 3 of the articles, line 11, we list some of the sexual violence that has occurred to little girls. Right, to little girls at the hands of illegals. We just had a family that was hit head on by a drunk illegal. The family's in critical condition, and none of these crimes should have occurred. These families' lives, these girls' lives are shattered because this administration and the border czar, quote unquote, failed to act. And so I have a constitutional obligation to point that out, to call her out on it, and then bring it before the House of Representatives. Now, what happens after this is anybody's guess, but this is a tough conversation, but it's a conversation we must have.
No, and the crimes being committed by illegal aliens are horrific. We see the headlines every day, and the fact of the matter is there's probably a lot more stories that don't get the headlines that are just as horrific. But what do you say to the naysayers who say, okay, maybe it passes through maybe it passes the first round, but it's never going to pass through the Senate, and you're just kind of wasting money because it's not going to go anywhere. What is your response to those naysayers?
Well, first of all, we're up here working. And so part of my job as a congressman is to be productive. So I would argue that I'm not wasting taxpayer money because I'm up here doing my job. Now, if I want to, if someone wants to sit in their office and have tea parties and go to fancy dinners, that's their choice. But I chose to fight. And I choose to fight. And so, look, some people are a little, oh, goodness, you really can't say that about her. You'll be called names or whatever. Look, I'm here to call things as I see them. When I look at Kamala Harris, I don't see race. I don't see gender. I see a dangerous individual who wants to undermine our republic. I see someone as a senator who literally attacked the middle class, who doesn't want you to be able to buy health insurance, who wants to give health insurance to illegal immigrants. You know what that does to our country? The math doesn't work. The math will never work. So she is something that you shouldn't be not only we're wary of, but someone that we should be afraid of. And so this is, look, I'm endorsed by Donald Trump, so clearly I have a bias here, but it's all hands on deck. We need to be making calls. We need to be making doors because we don't want to just win the Electoral College. We've got to win the popular vote and send a message to the progressive Democrats. This is our country and we want it back.
No, and I'll vouch for you. You're definitely not afraid of being called names. Is it officially Kamala or bust right now for the Dems, or do you see maybe someone else stepping in at the convention?
No, I think I can rattle off a feyou things, but I think she's been endorsed by all 50 of the state Democratic chairs. The Clintons have endorsed her. You just go down the list, Pelosi, et cetera. Some of the governors who might otherwise run, like Beshear or Whitmer, have endorsed her. So, I think they've cleared the decks. And then the media is reporting that they essentially that she has enough committed delegates to win. But here's what's happening, and you're going to see this play out before our very eyes, is that the woke leftist media that was complicit in covering up for Joe Biden because he's been in cognitive decline for some time now, they're going to try to reinvent her into someone that she has never been and never will be. In her rally, she just talked about how she's going to lift up the middle class. Every policy that she has supported attacks the middle class. And so this is a woman that if she gets into the office, she's dangerous. She's more radical than Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. She's left of center.
Yeah, well, she's pulling record numbers, Andy. I don't know if you've seen this. They had the largest rally this Democrat campaign cycle. They had 3,000 people show up for her in Milwaukee. It's about 97,000 less than Donald Trump's largest rally. But you're right. The media is going to try to anoint her. Do you worry that the articles of impeachment could give them ammo to say, the Republicans are terrified of Kamala Harris?
You know what? If that line of thinking motivates our people to get out and vote because we're pointing out that she is a threat to the republic, then so be it. Because no matter what we say on the right as conservatives, they're going to have some problem with it. They're going to call us a name. And so I'm not going to parse words. I'm not going to back down. We have an obligation to let the American people know who she really is and the failures that she has delivered onto the American people. Again, we've caught terrorists at the southern borders. Yep. We know that we have terror cells operating in our country. We've caught people with bomb-making material. And so the list goes on and on and on. We are less safe. Think about that for a minute. We are less safe in this country because of the Harris-Biden administration, and we've got to do something about it. And so I'm not going to back down. Well, if my job is to defend the republic and defend your family and my family, that's what I'm going to do.
Well, I like it, man, and I appreciate the honesty and the candor and the fight. Switching gears a little bit, what do you expect out of Joe Biden's Oval Office address tonight?
Well, I was going to be sarcastic in my response, but I'll pull that back.
No, come on. You know, this is the place for sarcasm.
I was going to say drooling and babbling, but, look, so I was the first at the State of the Union. I was the first Republican that the president spoke to. As he came in, I was right there on the right. I was the first chair. And I was respectful to the president. He is, after all, the president. But I pointed to my lapel, and I was wearing a white button that said Lake and Raleigh on it. I said, Mr. President, I want you to take a look at my button. And I pointed to it. So I drew his eyes to it. I said, this Lake and Riley, and she was killed. It was for Lake and Riley. She was killed by an illegal because of the southern border, and I need you to do something about it. And there's this pause, right? He has to think about it. And he says, Lake and Riley, and there's another pause. And then he kind of lifts his hands up and his shoulders and says, oh, I love your pen. He was unable to connect the two parts of that sentence.
Jeez.
That I want him to look at my pen, and B, it has the name of a dead girl on it, and you're to blame. And so this is the problem that you have with Joe Biden, is that he can't cognitively process complex thoughts. And I saw it on full display. And so now if you put him in front of a teleprompter and he's on his, juicing Joe stuff that gets him all riled up, he does an okay job. But then you see him in Italy where the drugs are starting to wear off and he literally just starts to wander off. I mean, this is the commander in chief. And you know what? Our allies in Europe, they look at this and they're thinking, holy crap, the country that we look to for guidance and protection, there's nobody home. But you know what? Our enemies see it too. And this is why we've got to hold the Harris-Biden administration accountable. That's why I've offered these articles of impeachment, because America deserves to know what Kamala Harris did, or quite frankly, didn't do while she was vice president.
If Joe Biden can't run for re-election, can he be president for the next 6 months?
I think from a strategic standpoint, we're fine with him being there, because we know he hasn't been running the country for some time, let's be honest. And you haven't had a cabinet meeting since this past November.
Which is insane. That's insane.
Right. Yeah, so Blinken and company are running the country. And again, so we're in a constitutional crisis situation, but I think from their perspective, they're not going to want to shuffle the decks. I could be wrong. I mean, anything could happen. I mean, quite frankly, he could potentially resign this evening. We'll see. But, I don't think he went willingly. To be honest with you, I think they put him out there in the debate intentionally. They wanted him to fail so that they could pull off this coup and put Harris in place. And there's legal reasons why they want her there, access to the war chest, et cetera. But that's a conversation for another time.
Have you heard about Donald Trump's Federal Election Commission filing about that war chest?
Yeah, actually, so they're challenging the idea or the notion that she has access to it. We'll see what the FEC does. There is some precedent for them to allow it, but again, this town's pretty partisan to the left, and my guess is they'll figure out a way to help out the Harris campaign.
Yeah, well, you know that they want to. Are you in D.C. currently?
Yes, so the Prime Minister of Israel is about to speak before a joint session of Congress.
And this is where I was going. I've seen the videos on the internet. They're erecting a fence.
Yeah.
Why are they doing that, Andy?
Well, so, and we'll see what the numbers turn out to be, but they're expecting, roughly 10,000 protesters, and obviously post-assassination attempt, they're a heightened state of security. And I'll compliment, obviously there's a lot of questions and criticism should be levied at the Secret Service, but the Capitol Police do a heck of a job. I had an early media hit this morning, a TV hit, And so I got out and early, and they had Capitol Police on mountain bikes walking around, securing the perimeter. And so, I'm confident in those folks up here wearing the uniform. They serve our country. They serve us. And, I make it a point every time I pass a Capitol Police officer to stop, shake their hand, and thank them for their service. And so now the Secret Service, that's a different question. I think the assassination attempt on the president makes Biden less safe. I think it makes Harris less safe. It makes Obama less safe, and anyone who else gets Secret Service protection, because that so-called veil, that bubble of protection that the world thought was there, was pierced when it hit Donald Trump.
Is it a scarier thought that it was a massive security failure, or is it a scarier thought that it might have been an inside job?
Well, either, right? But when you look at the ground, and they provided a video for us in kind of slow motion of the trajectory of the bullets and where the first one and the second one, et cetera, and the vantage point. You don't have to be a security expert to realize, hey, someone could be on that roof, and this is a failure. So the director Cheadle should have resigned immediately, in the same way the director did when Reagan was shot. And the fact that she held on was, again, it speaks to this administration, how they have no respect for the office itself, for the American people, for the sanctity of our republic. It's all about them, and it's all about power. And so that's why we've got to push back and fight. I'm going to tell you, Tennessee is a red state. Donald Trump is going to win this state, but we need every voter out there, one, casting a vote for the popular vote, but also, volunteer, make those phone calls into Pennsylvania and to Michigan and to Wisconsin, because we've got to win November, and we've got to win it big. And just because you don't live in one of those states doesn't mean that you can't be a part of winning those states big. You and your involvement will really make a difference in this.
100%. I always say we actually have a very unique situation in Tennessee because of all the transplants we have to touch a lot of different states when it comes to this next election. Like, we should be making phone calls to our friends and our family out of state.
Absolutely, for sure.
So with the hearings this past week on the assassination attempt, are you walking away with more questions than you had before? And do you trust the FBI doing the criminal investigation?
More questions than answers? Absolutely. Do I trust the FBI? Heck no. Whether it's J6, whether it's the weaponization of the Justice Department against Donald Trump, I was with Donald Trump in New York. I sat in the courtroom with him. It's literally a weaponized persecution of a former president. If they can get him, they can get you. They can get me. They can get anyone whose voice they don't agree with. So that's why the speaker is going to be setting up a separate task force. It will be bipartisan, where we will investigate this situation. We will have subpoena power, and we will get to the bottom of this. And I think it's important, too, for the American people, because I don't believe the American people trust the FBI. I don't think they trust the Secret Service anymore. So any information they provide is going to be suspect. It's got to be from the Republicans in the House of Representatives, and we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Have you been surprised with the amount of Democrats that have kind of come out and taken, the same stance as the conservatives, that this was a travesty and that Kimberly Cheadle should have resigned? Guys like Ro Khanna or Jamie Raskin. Has that been surprising to you, or did you kind of expect that?
I think you would hope that would occur, right? In the same way, if there was an attempt on former president, any of the former presidents, Obama, you name any of the others, or if there was an attempt on Biden, I would be appalled by that. I would call for whomever's in charge to step down. I would call for they and those around them to have additional protection, because, again, the bad guys see this. The bad guys saw what happened on that Saturday. And now they're inspired, perhaps, to do the same thing. So whether it's a bad actor in Iran or North Korea or some knucklehead somewhere else in our country, that veil of protection has been pierced. This impermeability that the Secret Service, that air that they've always projected, has been shattered. And so, again, you would hope that this would be bipartisan and would be virtually unanimous, that everyone would say, you know what, we got to have a hard reset here. And obviously there's a few on the left that, even said that, a question as to whether it was staged. It's like, come on.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
We have an individual lost their life protecting his family. So that's absurd. It's offensive. And I would argue, the left gets away with this inflammatory language that you and I could never get away with. the courts and the media would be all over us, but they can call for violence. They can villainize Donald Trump to literally make him a villain as if he's out of some horror movie, which again inspires those people to want to do harm. And so, look, I can disagree with Joe Biden. I might not even like Joe Biden, but my attacks on him are going to be based on policy, not on some personal persona that he may or may not have. And we got to get back to that. Look, Chris, you and I can disagree on something. Then afterwards, we're going to have another conversation about the topic that's going to improve our country.
Yep.
And that's what we got to get back to.
Do you envision, 20 years down the road, people are going to still be questioning this event? Or do you think we're going to reach a point where we kind of have a consensus and we can all semi-agree that the information that we've been presented is accurate on what happened?
Well, to be determined, but my hope would be is that we take the appropriate action with the task force, that we're able to get the information that we need, and that we can put this to rest. And look, there's a lot of questions here, and there's a lot of, oddities with this case and this young man that seems suspect. Who motivated him? Who inspired him? Who told him where to be and where to go? I don't know. We don't know the answer to those questions. And so, there's always going to be, I think, lingering conspiracy. But my hope is that we can reassure the American people that at some point, by a reset and a hard reset, when we have the House, we being the Republicans, we have the Senate, and we have the White House, that we have to do a hard reset. We have to clear house at the FBI, and we have to clean house at the Secret Service, and look, our Constitution, our rule of law, our republic is based on this idea that justice is blind, and that everyone, regardless of race or creed or gender, is going to be treated equally. And that's not happening anymore.
No.
And that's a problem. I think that signals the end and the decline of the republic. And so we've got to reset that. That's going to be tough. There's a hard work ahead, but I'm committed to getting it done and fighting for it.
Andy Ogles on the Newsmaker Hotline. Thanks for joining the show today. I really appreciate you. Any closing thoughts or call to action for Tennesseans?
Well, I just want to say, it's an honor to be a member of Congress at this historic time. I think this election, as we go forward, will be historic. It is literally, it's kind of like the Titanic. We're heading towards a collision. If we correct course today, we can avoid it. So it's historic. I encourage people to be part of it, and it's an honor to be your congressman.
Hey, I appreciate you, Andy. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's 11:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand here for my friends at Paul Winkler Inc. You know Paul. He hosts the Investor Coaching Show every Saturday here on WTN. He's been doing that for almost 2 decades. Unbelievable run that he's had. And I listened to that show before I got my show here, and I would learn from Paul. And when I got my show here, I wanted to work with Paul. Almost instantly, I said, please introduce me to Paul. Because I felt like I knew him already, and after getting to talk to him, he's the same guy that you hear on the air. Honest, smart, absolutely legit, and I'm proud to be a client of Paul's. Now, when I do these commercials, I get paid to do them, and Paul wants me to tell you that. He wants the honesty. He wants the transparency. I like that. I also like that Paul's team hold themselves to the highest level of fiduciary status, and because of that, he wants that honesty. He wants the transparency. I like that Paul's team doesn't work on commission. And I also like they really focus on education. So that way, when you're making decisions for your financial future, you never have that uneasy feeling of blind trust. Talk to Paul. You're going to feel just as good as I do after talking to him about your financial future. Set up a 15-minute phone call today. Get the ball rolling downhill. Go to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hear what the FBI chief is telling Congress about the Trump assassination attempt at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you again to Andy Ogles for coming on the show. He was talking a lot about the border, and Jesse Waters aired part 2 of his Trump-Vance interview last night, and there was a lot of discussion about the border from Donald Trump, from J.D. Vance. They talked a lot about the optics of what mass deportation will look like. And I think we can all understand that it is going to be an optics battle, right? If the mass deportations go on as planned. What do the optics of that look like? And do you push forward anyway? Well, Donald Trump answered all those questions. I'll have the relevant audio for you after Ken Weaver's newscast, which happens right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the details on the potential for more showers and thunderstorms this afternoon during the full forecast in 2 minutes. FBI Chief Christopher Wray telling a hearing on the assassination attempt of former President Trump. The 20-year-old shooter had a drone flying around the rally venue a couple of hours before shots rang out and had 3 explosive devices, 2 in his car, 1 at his house.
I would say these are relatively, again, keyword relatively crude devices themselves, but they did have the ability to be detonated remotely.
Elsewhere in D.C., hundreds of Gaza war protesters demonstrating before Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address of a joint session of Congress. And election 2024, President Biden addressing the nation tonight at 7 o'clock Middle Tennessee time about his decision to drop out of the race and endorse Vice President Harris. Hear it live, on air and online on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That's the
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
It's 11:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how you doing? I'm Chris Hand. Thanks to my guest today. Topher was awesome earlier. That's been podcasted. Sarah McAbee was great. That's been podcasted. And Andy Ogles for joining the show just a moment ago.
Will be podcasted.
That'll be podcasted as well. We got a lot of podcasts today.
Man, we're doing it. We're cooking.
Apple and Spotify. If you want to, share the show with your friends, listen again, or if you miss something, it's always there. And even if you're not a podcast person, just go hit subscribe anyway and rate it 5 stars. I got 4 kids. It would be helpful.
I was like, I got bills to pay and AC to cover.
I mean, none of the kids are kicking in on the Wi-Fi. Spoiler alert.
Absolutely not.
So help me out. We got a lot from Andy. He's introducing articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris when it comes to the border. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, they did an interview with Jesse Waters, and I do feel bad for Jesse. They did this interview on Saturday. And I mean, you know what happened Sunday. The president, Joe Biden, dropped out of his re-election race. So the interview was almost dated instantly, which is insane. Just insane. But that's how fast the news cycle has been moving. There were some really good clips that you could take from that interview that are evergreen, if you will. And one of them was when he was talking about the border. We talked a little bit about the border with Andy, and a lot about the border with Andy. It's a mess. It's wide open. Kamala Harris was in charge of that. But they're talking about border failures, and the question was posed to Trump. Are strikes against the cartels on the table? I mean, I would hope they are. Would you hope they are? I think we all would hope they are.
We won't have that much time for golf if you're as fortunate as we expect to get elected. Mexico, are strikes against the cartel still on the table?
Absolutely.
Even against our biggest trading partner?
Absolutely. Mexico's going to have to straighten it out really fast, or the answer is absolutely.
Yeah, I think cartels should be designated as terrorist organizations. Don't you? I think it's past time to go after cartels. They're killing more Americans a year than any terrorist organization that I can think of, with the amount of fentanyl that's coming in this country. And Trump brings up that point as well. The fentanyl that's coming in here is killing about 300,000 people a year, Donald Trump says. And he actually brings up an interesting point, saying that he had a deal in place with China on fentanyl being shipped over to the United States and then smuggled into the country. But the deal was in place, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris didn't act on it.
They're killing 300,000 people a year with fentanyl coming in. And China, by the way, will do what they have to do. They're going to do it just like I had a deal with President Xi, but then Biden never took it over. They were going to give the death penalty to anybody sending fentanyl our way. And that was part of my negotiation. They never did it because nobody forced it on our side.
Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Donald Trump, and I have no reason not to believe this, says that he had a deal in place with China to give the death penalty to anyone sending fentanyl over here. And that the deal was there, but nobody from the Biden administration pressed them on it. Huh. Weird. I wonder why.
You know, China has a death penalty for drug dealers, etc. And I said, they're drug dealers. They agreed with me. He agreed with me. Death penalty for drug dealers. Death penalty for people that send fentanyl into our country. And that would have made a big difference. But you know what happened? Nothing, because when Biden came in, nothing happened. And I don't know why he's so soft on China, but boy, is he soft on China. But China's sending almost 100% of it is from China to the Mexican border, and then it's coming in.
Yeah, and we all know that it's coming from China, if you will. We know that. But the deal was in place. Death penalty to anyone sending over fentanyl. Biden administration didn't pick it up. I'm a fan of the death penalty. A lot of people don't like it. I like the death penalty. In fact, I think we should expand the death penalty. I've lost a lot of friends and people that I've grown up with to addiction and to this fentanyl garbage that's coming across our southern border. And I think if you get caught selling that in America, you should be facing the death penalty. I think pedophiles should be facing the death penalty. I think that these aren't controversial takes, but we need to do more. We need to do more. And Trump said he had a deal in place where China was going to give the death penalty to anyone sending over fentanyl, but Joe Biden didn't act on it. Weird. The conversation continues with Jesse Waters, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and it gets to the topic of mass deportations, and we've all been talking about mass deportations. We like the idea of mass deportations, but we understand that there's an optics issue, right? We understand that because they're not going to show the MS-13 gang members with face tattoos being deported. They're going to show the mother and a daughter being deported. And Donald Trump talks about the optics of mass deportations.
Are you prepared for the hysteria from the left, legally, bureaucratically, when you do mass deportations?
So Dwight Eisenhower, who people consider a moderate, he probably wasn't as moderate as people think, but Dwight Eisenhower did the largest deportation ever in this country. He was very big on people not coming into our countries, people breaking our sealed borders, right? And the hardest thing in a certain way is exactly what you said. We have to get some very bad people out of this country. And as soon as we grab, perhaps we take a woman with 2 children, 3 children, she shouldn't be here, but she's a nice woman, the children are beautiful, and all of a sudden it ends up being a front page story of the liberal newspapers. And you're right, it's a hard thing to do, harder than a long time ago with Dwight Eisenhower, right? A lot harder. Nobody complained. In those days it was, we had a country that was much different. But we have no choice. We have to get the criminals out.
Yeah, we have no choice. When there's millions upon millions upon millions of illegal aliens in this country, if it's just 1% bad, that's devastating. That's thousands upon thousands. And we understand that every state is a border state. Every town is a border town currently under the Biden administration. So Donald Trump essentially says, optics be damned. Optics be damned. Because you know who's coming over our southern border?
These are murderers. These are drug dealers. These are people that will take women and put them in the trunk of a car and sell them to the highest bidder. They'll come across the border, human traffickers, which is, you think of that as an ancient thing.
Yep.
Actually, it's almost as big as the drug trade now.
He's right.
You wouldn't even believe this. And the reason is because of the internet. The internet has made that into a massive business. Human trafficking, it's mostly in women. And all of these things, we have no choice. We have to do it.
We have to do it. That's Donald Trump. Mass deportations. Optics be damned. Stephen in Paris, you're next on Super Talk. Your thoughts on the optics and Donald Trump possibly going after cartels.
Hey, Chris, thanks, man. Yeah, this is Operation Homeland Security as we know it, 2025, man. This is what we're all hoping to see. We got a lot of special operators, military, sitting around now, pissed off. They have a lot of training and a lot of experience, and they really need something to do. I think this is their opportunity to, what better operation could you be involved with rather than protecting your own home, your own family, and your own country right at its own doorstep, know. Mexico has a big part to play in it in themselves. We saw them, going in that direction under Trump the first time. It is very corrupt, but also we're going to have, National Guard and our military on both sides of the border. And the way I see this, it's not impossible. It's really can be taken care of quick and easy because if you think about it, Tijuana and San Diego, Juarez and El Paso, we handle our side, they handle their side along with our help. If we can, those are the 2 mega holds for the cartels are in those 2 cities. All the other little places and towns in between can be swept up and cleaned up within a week or 2. They're going to flee. They're going to run. They have nowhere to run and nowhere to hide other than in those big stronghold towns. So, but like I said, this is also going to be an opportunity for Mexico and their future to clean up their own system, to clean up their own country from the corruption, and to have people where people down there will have a brighter future, more opportunity, and a safer country to live in.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you, Steve, and I appreciate the call, man. It would give them an opportunity for a better life if Donald Trump was going after the cartels. And if we get the mass deportations done, It's going to create a safer and better life for millions upon millions of Americans. But there's the optics issue. There's the Mockingbird media. There are hurdles that we need to clear. J.D. Vance says it himself. The media is going to attack the Trump administration for doing what they promised to do.
Media will attack us for doing what we actually promised to do, which is get a lot of the violent criminals and the people who shouldn't be here out of here. But one, that's why leadership actually matters. I think President Trump showed during his first 4 years, he wasn't willing to take on the lying media when he had to, and the country was better off for it. But you just start with the worst people, right? But before you get into what you can't do, I don't understand why our entire governing class doesn't ask, well, what's the part you actually have to do? Why don't we start there and then figure it out from there?
I mean, I think that's a reasonable approach. I do. Okay, the optics would be bad if it's a mom and a daughter. Let's get the MS-13 members first. Let's get Tren de Aragua, that Venezuelan street gang, out of here first. Let's go after the guys in New York City that are on their mopeds doing organized crime. Let's do that first. How about the illegal aliens in Michigan with their Wi-Fi jammers that are doing sophisticated and orchestrated break-ins on homes throughout rural communities? How about let's do that first? I think it's a good strategy. I do. Bobby in Nashville, you're up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Bob?
Hey, friend, I'd like to say, as always, you guys do an excellent job every day, so keep up the good work.
Thank you, man.
What I want to ask real quick, and I won't take but a minute of your time, what is Kamala going to say during about her situation, how she's handled the border? And I noticed last night, few of her speeches she was giving, she's trying to flip the script like the Republicans, just, they did this and they did that, but really it's all on them. But this is what we need to do to fix the border. It's no problem. Day one, you get your National Guard, whoever you need, just head right on down to the border. Keep everybody down on the border, start building the wall. I mean, we don't have to go through no laws or anything for our own border. That's something I don't understand. What's your point on that?
Yeah, I mean, Kamala is just going to say that she's not going to be burdened by what has been. That's what Kamala is going to do. But I think that we have a lot of troops overseas that could be much better utilized at home. And I think that Americans don't want wars where we're funding both sides in a conflict that is not going to have a winner, as with Ukraine and Russia. There's no clear path to victory. So why are we funding that? I think we need to bring our troops home, and we need to secure here first. It's America first, and that starts with our border. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 11:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand, Matt Murphy in studio. What's up, dude?
I'm looking something up. I'm very busy right now.
What are you looking up?
I'm looking up Baby Biden Alive to see if I can somehow copyright this. We just had this idea. It's great. It's a great idea.
$1 million idea.
Yeah, Baby Biden Alive was it's a baby Joe in a little suit, and he's drooling, he's pooping himself. That kind of thing. That's going to be real funny until we find out he's actually dead, and then everybody's mad at me.
What are you expecting tonight from the Oval Office address besides some AI glitches?
I don't believe that it's a single-digit percentage chance that he resigns the presidency. I think that's double digits. Now, I think it's in the teens probably, but I think that's on the table. I don't think it's completely off the table. I think it's far more likely that he promotes Kamala, talks about their administration, yada, 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 history's in the making. It was my great honor and privilege, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. Does he address the age issues? Does he address the old issues? You think? I mean, you think he has to, right?
I think he would have to. He didn't really give a reason for why he was dropping out yet.
Right, because if your reason for dropping out is I can't beat Trump, then explain to me how your right-hand woman, who was right there for every horrible, horrific decision you made as president, how she can.
Also, can we talk about how the left-wing Mockingbird media, they are now telling us Kamala is the most qualified person in decades, but it was 4 months ago they said if Biden had a better VP, he'd have a better chance of winning. How do we replace Kamala as the VP? Have you noticed how they've memory hold that ordeal so quickly?
Chris Hand, she was never the border czar. What are you talking about?
Blows my mind.
Yeah, but how can these people sleep? If they had any shame, I say it all the time, if these people had any shame, they would feel it. But they don't have any.
I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct.
I mean, that's your border czar.
I never said that. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? So, yeah, obviously, this is the same mainstream media that told us 4 months ago that Joe Biden was, perfectly capable of serving another term as president of the United States.
He's running circles around us.
Oh, no, Joe Scott, he's cogent. That's my favorite. He's cogent. He's as cogent as he's ever been. Losers and liars. But I'm going to talk about DEI today and how Tim Burchett, who's going to be on the show tomorrow at 12:35, he couldn't come on today because of the Netanyahu joint address, one that Kamala Harris has decided to skip to go to a sorority. I'm not making that up. He's going to talk about the DEI issue, and everyone discussing this is right. It is absolutely correct, but I think we need to address it and get beyond it because there's so much record that we can attack against Kamala Harris. We don't have to talk about the color of her skin.
Did you hear Whoopi Goldberg going after Tim Burchett for calling Kamala a DEI hire?
I did not.
So the other side doesn't really have anything to stand on, which is why they can only say, well, she's a DUI or DYE, whatever, because that's all they have. That's what people have when they don't have anything else.
That's correct.
That's why they can hit women with that. Oh, you just got hired because you're a woman. No, I got hired because you couldn't do the job. That's why.
And the SEALs, they clap.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. So who created DEI?
Tell me, Matt.
I think it was the political left, right? It was the left, right? The left created DEI.
Yep.
So for me to address and identify Kamala Harris as a DEI hire, why do you assume that I'm saying that in a negative way? You celebrate DEI. You celebrate the hiring and the DEI practices that many, many companies around the United States of America have been pressured and bullied into adopting. So why is this suddenly looked at as a negative just because we address the fact that Joe Biden said that he's hiring a black female to be his vice president? He said it. He picked 4 people under consideration. 4 people got vetted by Joe Biden. You know what they all had in common?
Tell me.
Black and female.
Oh, weird.
Odd. And so obviously that's a DEI position. Nobody's saying the woman isn't, she's not, but no one is talking about her qualifications. We're just setting the basic parameters as to how she got the job.
Joe Biden himself said DEI has been a priority in my administration, and Kamala Harris is an example of that.
So
on video.
What are we talking about?
That might have been one of them cheap fakes.
You think? They're all out there. Just ask Karine. Where's Karine? Does anybody see Karine?
She was on The View yesterday. I didn't even get to this audio. This woman skips a press briefing on one of the biggest news days of the century to go on the cackles of the View.
I like this. The game is on. The left thinks they can go on the offensive now. So let's go.
Let's
roll, baby.
Murphy's in next. It's 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.